Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, morons compared to Vice President Joe Biden. Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle Now. And Bill, a reporter has finally asked the question directly to former Vice President Biden about his cognitive ability. And the reporter phrased it this way. He said that some have speculated that you are subject to some degree of cognitive decline. Have you been tested for some degree of cognitive decline? And the reporter prefaced that by saying he himself was 65 years old and he knows that he sometimes forgets things. And so he's asking the former vice president and presumptive Democratic nominee whether he has been tested. First of all, let me just start here. Bill, what do you think of the fact that someone in the press pool actually asked the question?
What network was he from?
That's unclear.
I got to guess. Well, you know, it's one of those moments where you just wake up with the shock. 40 years ago, if a reporter had failed to do something obvious, you know, you'd be like, what? Now it's like when they do something obvious and necessary, you're kind of a little bit amazed.
Now, the answer that Biden gave right back at him was basically...
You want to let me just see if I can guess, because I haven't heard. Did Biden say, "Oh, you want to do IQ tests with me, fat? Come on, you lying dog-faced pony soldier. Let's get on the ground and we'll do the things, with the word thing."
Actually, that's a loose paraphrase of what that Biden used to say during the Democratic primary when he said that if Trump went after him on his age and mental state during a debate, that Biden would challenge him to a push-up contest saying, "Come on, Donald, come on, man. How many push-ups do you want to do here, pal? I mean, jokingly, come on, run with me, man." So you're not too far off. But in this case, when asked if he had any cognitive testing done or been tested for cognitive decline, he said that he's constantly tested, meaning that he's out there on the campaign trail. And then Biden responded, "Look, all you've got to do is watch me. And I can hardly wait to compare my cognitive ability to the cognitive ability of the man I'm running against." At which point Biden ended the question period and left the stage.
By saying thank you, Auntie, and I'm going to the groceries to get the gypsum that you asked me for. I don't even know what gypsum is. I don't think it's food. No, it's a mineral of some kind. He's going to get some walking bird.
So he just can't wait to compare his cognitive ability. In other words, he's champing at the bit to be able to match brain for brain with a man who has proclaimed himself to be a very stable genius.
Yes, and speaking of stable geniuses, bonus points for you for saying champing at the bit and not chomping at the bit. Because
I didn't want to be hoist on my own petard.
Hoisted on your own petard? No. Because this is, in fact, your stamping grounds. So anyway, I think this is one of the things that's most unpleasant about Joe Biden. And as you get to know Joe better, that becomes a higher and higher bar to clear. But Joe Biden is one of those guys who equates strength with belligerence, with personal belligerence. Like, so you've got facts and figures on your side, do you? Well, how many push-ups can you do? And you know, I'm waiting for somebody to call him out. I really am. I just,
like what his IQ per push-up quotient is, or what?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a per capita push-ups divided by IQ multiplied by your age and divided by the Chinese calendar year. But seriously, and by the way, there's one really serious point in this, and that is, in answer to your question, the answer is no. Donald Trump, my understanding is, has to take, I forget what the name of the cognitive test is. I want to say something like S71 or it's something. It's a standardized mental acuity test. And Trump takes it every year and passes it with flying colors. That's what I read anyway. I didn't administer the test myself, but that's what I've heard. But for Biden to say, I get tested multiple times a day, is an answer to the question. And the answer is no. Because if the answer was yes, and he was going to take this seriously, then he would say, yes, I was at Dr. So-and-so's office on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. I just realized a good time for me to be there. And basically, I took the test and they found no degree of significant mental decline. But he didn't say that. I get tested every day. Do you have any money in the bank, sir? Or is your company bankrupt? Bankrupt. I've got $100 in my wallet right now.
It reminds me, and I can't remember the guy's full name, but there was a Democratic candidate several decades ago when people started asking questions about whether he might be a philanderer. He said, "Follow me," and they did, and they caught him. Biden's answer here is, "Just watch me."
I knew, I met Donna Rice a few times, and I have a friend who was a good friend with Donna Rice. Yeah, and that's the hubris of it all, right? The hubris of it. And we've talked about this before. And what it comes down to, Scott, is it's not just unfair that the media deploys all of whatever is left of their assets to trying to investigate conservatives for fraud and malfeasance and lying and all the rest of it. That's their job. But the result of them not doing it for Democrats is the short-term result is it makes it easier for Democrats to get elected. But the long-term result is that it enormously multiplies their predilection for corruption, which I would say, given the case of Biden and Hillary, was pretty high in the first place. When Gary Hart said, "Yeah, follow me. If you think I'm fooling around, just follow me." Was it 2 days later they caught him on monkey business?
I just wondered when I heard that, will this video of Bill Whittle now get posted to YouTube before the video of Joe Biden saying, "Just watch me," followed by clips of silly sounding things that he said on the campaign trail?
My understanding was that in that interview, he said, "I can't wait to go up and put my cognitive ability against the man I'm going to face in November."
Yes.
Yeah. His name's Donald Trump. He's president of the United States.
Well, I'm not sure that he was not able to remember the name of his forthcoming opponent, but it may have been that he just doesn't want to give him airtime.
Yeah, he doesn't remember the name of the person who he was vice president for. He's blown that name on several years. Listen, here's the thing, Scott. Right now, this is still, we've talked about this many times. First, it was sad, then it was kind of comical, then it's kind of desperate and angering. And we got to the point where it's even actually genuinely sad and pathetic, where we were pathetic in the genuine meaning of the term, not in a snarky way, just like, somebody please, that's just not right. We were talking about Jim Stockdale, who was pushed into politics way past the point where he should have retired. And right now it's still in that category. But I personally don't think the debates are going to happen. I think they're going to come up with a last-minute excuse. But if they do happen, then that is going to be a national disgrace. And the Democrats seem to think that somehow they can avoid this. That somehow it's just it's what they do. They just kick the can down the road, and we'll lie about that problem when we get there. But if it turns out that these debates happen, and if they don't happen, it will be because the Biden campaign cancels them. And if the Biden campaign cancels them, Donald Trump will have an exceedingly potent weapon. But if they do happen, what's going to occur during those debates is going to be, it's not even going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be the kind of thing where like a contestant comes out on a game show and instead of giving stupid answers, they just wet their pants, and you have to cut away. And when you come back after commercial, they're not there anymore. It's like Crispin Glover trying to kick David Letterman in the face, It's like, okay, we'll be right back. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, we're right back and he's not there. There will be, I cannot, look, it's not a question of my imagination. My mother suffered from this, continues, well, she's no longer getting any worse because there's not a lot worse you can get. But this process does not reverse itself, and you do not recover, and you do not have a long period of time where nothing happens. It's an acceleration. The Alzheimer's is a horrible, horrible thing, and the loss of memory is terrible. But the dementia is what guts you. when you hear people who you loved, who've always been very gentle and very kind and sweet and just perfectly well-mannered, when you hear these people screaming words that you didn't even think they knew, it guts you. And this is going to happen to Joe Biden. Already, you can see look, Joe's never been a particularly, bright guy. But clearly, in the last 4 years, his cognitive ability has slipped significantly. He used to make a lot of gaffes, and the gaffes then became kind of like what we'll call this latest adventure. But look, these things usually come together scientifically because, I believe in following the science. But dementia and Alzheimer's usually travel together, and the Alzheimer is the loss of memory, and Joe's clearly evidencing that. But what's worse is that I'm seeing multiple signs of the dementia aspect of it. This uncontrolled aggression, this kind of, listen, fat, you want to do some push-ups? Calling a college-age girl or whatever it was a lying dog-faced pony soldier while she's at one of his events because she happened to ask an honest question. This meanness, this real meanness, is the least appealing thing in a political candidate. And I see signs, having watched it up close for 20 years now, I see signs that this is in fact getting worse. And this is where the Democratic Party's lack of shame is going to just be devastating come the fall. I think it's just going to be really going to be. I mean, everybody knows Joe Biden's the candidate. Sure he is. Whoever the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket, that's who the president's going to be.
Final question on this, Bill. The Trump campaign or some of its supporters have run an ad that accuses Biden of lacking, quote, the mental fortitude required to lead this country. Given the fact that such a large percentage of the electorate, the people who actually show up and vote, are in that senior citizen category, and that people are living longer and longer and able to get out and do the things that they, 50 years ago, they would have had to been 20 years younger to do. How do you think that this debate between two septuagenarians about cognitive ability is going to play with senior voters who think of themselves not as 70 years old, but as 50 years old mentally?
Well, I think to the degree that if you were to find, obviously Republicans are going to lean Republican, Democrats are going to lean Democrat when they see how impaired Joe Biden is. Significant numbers of people who would have otherwise voted Democrat will either reluctantly vote for Trump or not vote at all, which is half of the same thing. But the thing that's interesting about your question is, come November, we're going to see a very interesting example of the difference between what a mentally engaged person in their 70s looks like versus what a non-mentally engaged person in their 70s looks like. And I don't mean to make this overly personal, and I'm certainly not an appeal to authority, but just as an example that's close in my life, my mother has a brother who's 1 year younger than her, is my uncle, and so genetically they're virtually identical. And he, on the other hand, has been teaching. He teaches gas turbines, which to Americans is jet engines. And he's been teaching engineering students around the world how gas turbine engines operate for 40 years now. And every single week, he has to get up in front of a bunch of very, very bright people and pull something like 3,000 or 4,000 slides worth of data out of his head. And he does this very, very well. And this is a big indication of the nature of this disease. It is really a question of use it or lose it. And so the reason I bring up my uncle is because age does not necessarily equate to cognitive decline. Cognitive decline is something that comes with age, but usually it comes with age because you have not been exercising your brain. And many, many, many medical experts on this, biological medical experts, as well as psychologists, have said for so long now, it's a mantra. It's like, if you did 2 crosswords a day as an older person, just do 2 crosswords a day, that alone will go a long way to stave off this. And certainly my mother, who got to be quite isolated, didn't do that. My Uncle Ted did. And so to answer your question about what old people will think, I think they're going to be presented with a blaringly stark choice between an old person who has no idea what's going on versus a person who's approximately the same age, who seems to be, whatever you may think of his policies or his character, certainly doesn't seem to be at a loss for words or for answers or for reductions or policies. There were times during the early coronavirus debates when I just thought he was just brilliant, like just absolutely just in charge of things and knocking them out. So they'll have the example in front of their eyes. And I think that combined with many, many, many other things, like the destruction of the culture that so many of these old people fought and risked dying for, is going to have a very large influence come November.
We're grateful to the members of BillWhittle.com who have made this program possible. We produce some 20 episodes of Bill Whittle Now and another 20 episodes of Right Angle, in addition to other programming at BillWhittle.com, only because these members are willing to part with their own cash to make it possible. If you'd like to be part of a group of people who loves liberty, our U.S. Constitution, and conservative ideas, and wants to see it not only be the pervasive philosophy of these United States of America, but also spread around the world, you may want to consider going to BillWhittle.com and clicking that big green Become a Member button. More and more people are doing that every day, and our existing members love welcoming new members at the private member blog and in the comments section, the private directory, private messaging, and all kinds of features that you can enjoy only when you're a member at BillWhittle.com. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.